edition of the Strategic Management Program, where we look at leadership, strategy, and management. If there's been any time that we need to see those three play out, it's in this period of unprecedented history in Nigeria, where we're seeing youth protest, the decades of decay and, of course, inactivity from reforming the police force, following recently with the stage of protests and mobilization across the country. The federal government and the Inspector General of Police have responded swiftly to disband FSARs and also promising to reform the police force. There have been engagements across this, but in the last, and this is why today we'll be looking at police reforms, youth protests, leadership, and communication. With me is our regular guest, Mr. John Wese, a strategic management consultant and CEO of Syntech Nigeria Limited. Nice to have you, Mr. John Wese, on the program.
Thank you, Otto. Nice to be here.
Yes, and congratulations, you just concluded your Leadership Learning and Development Network International Conference, LDNI, and of course, we're looking at building new pathways. But let's begin with that. What has this taught those in leadership and management in terms of how to the police reforms and how the delays in reforming units like FSARs caused a lot of challenges because of the excesses, extrajudicial killings and brutalities recorded so far?
Thank you, Otto, who were partners with us, our media partners, and even much more for the just concluded Champions of Talent Development conference. That conference that finished a few days ago is actually still on, especially if you subscribed. It was the first time such a talent conference was. If you recall the theme, the theme was building new pathways. And all of a sudden, as if we are predicting, or like they say in some religious sects, as if we are prophesying, you know, what was going to happen. Yeah, as if we are prophesying. Now, the entire program focused on how do we build new pathways in developing, managing, and growing talent. How do we respond to this? So that is the closing product or input substitution. We need to understand what learning agility is, which was what Ndubisi Ekekwe was talking about, right? 3, we also talked about we need to seek to get, so that's what we are hoping that this conference was able to bring and kind of prophesying what was going to happen. Now, if we look at all the elements that the conference focused on, what it did tell us was we could do better. And we will do better by improving our engagements, with all stakeholders, which you mentioned. The people to be developed, the people developing them, the channels, the tools, the methodologies by which we use in developing our people, we need to change that. So in a nutshell, we have begun by building new pathways. It then means the way we'll engage, the tools we use must change. As we interact with each stakeholders, as we also develop talent and grow our businesses as the case may be, you know. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, it's quite emotional, the situation, the challenges and excesses of the force, and how long it took before we had these interventions. But Mr. Wese, when you look at and how did it take this before this by governments?
Well, it took this long, not because people have not been concerned. It took this long because any knowledge has come, but we must know how there have been boundaries. Those boundaries or those barriers have been broken. I don't need to have money to express them. So that's why that's taking this long.
And because, you know, the police reform NG, the likes of Shega Wosai and the rest, who have been over the years pushing for the reforms and with support of several people. But you can see that with this protest, things that we expected would have been done swiftly. We're already seeing steps taken now. The National Economic Council, the 6 governors met and agreed that they would monitor the activities of the strategic units and commands at the police level. And then the National Human Rights Commission will be involved. And one question that comes to play, Mr. Wese, when we look at in terms of looking at the police reforms, for example, is the role of the gap over the years. So if you have complaints or police formation, you needed somewhere to complain to resolve this thing, to take steps. This had been lacking, and now the need for the PSC to come on board is critical. Don't you think that we should push for that, the role of the PSC, empower them more to ensure that these reforms take its due course?
Thank you, Otto. We must not go beyond what the PSC should do. The PSC is an advisory body. The PSC is a policy formulating body. The PSC does not execute, but the PSC can set up an independent performance management unit, whatever they want to call it. Okay, I want to speak in my language. Yes, I want to speak in my language. The PSC can set an independent performance management unit to measure all the appropriate, all they need to do is issue out that policy and fund it. That's one. 2, however, why things have been this way is because we have an elitist system that has isolated itself, or a group of elites, or which you want to call people in establishments, that have isolated themselves from the reality of the change of society. And I have been sharing this with a couple of friends of mine, okay? They are the ones in governance today, okay? So, and I've been telling them, I mean, not just myself, a lot of people have been telling them, the rules of engagement of leadership today has changed. Leadership must be inclusive. Inclusivity is trust, which you mentioned. We have, in public governance, we have lost governing with a mindset of the 60s and of the 70s. For the love of Mike, we are in another century. So it's a mindset shift that needs to take place so that the appropriate structures to be put in place, whatever new system is established, you know, is effectual. First, they are not serving themselves, they are serving the people. That mindset must be there. They are not doing us any favor. Okay? The moment they have the mindset of service and serving very well, effectively, for corporate growth of the entire system, you understand that the metrics that they use in measuring their performance will change. Then the leadership mindset will also change. Then the leadership actions will say, you see, the moment a man's mind can be transformed, every other thing is possible. So we may sit here from now to tomorrow, you know, and talk about this thing. They are not doing us any favor. And our people in governance today, this select group of people who are elites, unfortunately, need to smell the coffee that things have changed. They need to smell the coffee. It's real. Things have changed. So, and it's not just in the police, it's in both in the private and the public sector, every strata of society. So our thoughts, the way we relate must change. This toga that we have carried is no longer tenable. And that's why you find what is happening. For some of us, this mode, the system forced this mode out of the citizens to respond to them. So that's exactly what I think has happened. So it doesn't matter. The PSC, yes, they are an advisory policy setting, but they can set up an independent body, monitor everything that they are telling them to do. So don't forget that. We can't go
quickly in just a few minutes blocking some of the queues. As I speak to you now, people in Lagos, there's a lot of gridlock movement around routes.
We're already in the shelter for political crisis. So thank the vice president for what he said. All right. It may not be deep enough. But the moment you have lost trust, how are they going to do that? I don't know. Okay, I'm sure a number of heads are putting their thoughts together to find a way to engage these people.
Yeah.
See, this generation, and with by nature of privilege, one has been able to mentor, and we are still mentoring, coaching, and teaching and training. These are young men and women, all right, who know what they're talking about. But they may not have the systemic implication, the depth. Okay, what they are seeing is an iceberg. It's like an iceberg. The systemic issues are really still under. But all we're saying is we don't care. There are low-hanging fruits. It's a change management situation, which we should deploy, okay? Change management approach to support or help in managing the crisis, as it were. Now, what are the requests that these people are asking? It is not for their benefit. It is for all of our benefits and generations that are what? Unborn. So what I think everybody is doing is, let's see action. The disruptions about movement all over the country, the disruption about movement all over the country is regrettable, but it's an essential factor for action. The reason is because we have history of our government officials, of our leaders not performing. So that's the issue. So when these same people will create passage. So a friend of mine was telling me he did 9 hours from Ibadan to Lagos yesterday. 9 hours. He said why the 9 hours was grueling, because they narrowed everything to one lane. Not only one lane, they will allow a set of vehicles to pass and close it for another 10 minutes and ask them to come down and ask people to trek. You see, these people are being very creative in order to gain attention. And because they've seen how change has happened in other climes. So they are thinking on their feet. Also, above all, where do these guys meet?
Yeah.
Do you know where they meet? Can you guess?
Digital platforms.
They are heads and steps ahead of us in managing this. So the government and all the people who are trying to engage them must bear this in mind. These guys are not meeting, they're not convoking in any physical space. They are convoking. So that's where these exchanges are taking place. So for you to now respond to them, you've got to find the best way in transparency and with concrete steps seen being taken. So once this is done, you will discover that they themselves, they've raised money. People are willingly donating across the world. So what are you talking about? Yeah. So these are the things we need. So yes, it is painful that we are all going through this. If we go through this for a season and there is respite for our people, and even for the police force, members of the police force themselves, it's for the benefit of every one of us. We've been oppressed. Like I used to say, we've been oppressed, suppressed, depressed, and abused. It cannot continue. So we want to see a better society where people feel they can freely express themselves. Not only that, they have the freedom to achieve whatever dreams that they have. But if our younger ones and our children are being killed the way they are being slaughtered by a group of people, supported by a select few airlines who are benefiting from a skewed system, what do you expect? So that's what's happening. So the rules of engagement must change. The government must set up a multilateral platform, but carefully coordinated with only one message, with only one goal. That's where the challenge is. So government thoughts should be, what should be the message to our citizens? Multilateral stakeholders thinking, but with only one message, but with what multilateral approach to engage these people. So it requires deep thinking, right, with openness, so that people can get. So that's what we need to do. That's what the government needs to do, you know, and everybody supporting the government, including our humble self. You mentioned the LDNI. We will be glad where the LDNI will have far more impact is to help in developing the curriculum. The way you train today, you are training adults, but the way we train them in the training schools, in all of our military and paramilitary schools, is like they're training children. No, the world has changed. These guys are adults already. So there are adult learning techniques, you know, that needs to. So that's where the LDNI is going to be of superior impact. Yes, when we are invited, we'll help them design the curriculum, you know, and however it should be, and the instructional design, like we call it. So that's what we're going to do when we are invited.
Thank you very much, Mr. John Wesley. We hear you very well. You say that government must
deploy multilateral platforms to give that clarity of message and engagement with the citizens in this time. And we hope that is done to ensure that we assuage the concerns, the frustrations of the youth. And we must say that the youth have shown resilience, coordination, and so much robust approach in engaging with the protest. Peaceful protest, no arms, no attack on personnel, just there expressing what they feel about the need to reform our police institution. And we hope that the government will expedite steps at this time so that it won't be like the history of they promised to do something and it failed. This time, they really want to see action, and we hope that that common ground to move our nation forward. But thank you so much, Mr. John Wesley, for the time, and definitely we hope that the LDNI will be integrated also to help in terms of the orientation for the police force, because like you rightly said, an independent performance management system is also needed to see how each formations are creating value and serving the nation better. Thank you once again, Mr. John Wesley, for the time.
Thank you always. It's a privilege for me, and have a wonderful weekend.
And you too. Stay safe and the family. And that'll be all for this edition of the Strategic Management Program. You can join our website, www.approaching.com, to watch our videos of Strategic Management Program, and of course read the stories and reports around leadership and management, and also follow Mr. Wesley on Twitter at John Wesley on his thoughts around leadership as it affects the country. So we come your way again next weekend to discuss other issues around leadership and management. This is wishing you a lovely weekend. Have a nice day and stay safe.